Our next important digestive organ is stomach, where different food like simple protein, simple fat can be digested with the help of these enzymes. The enzymes are pepsinogen, prorennin and gastric lipase. Among these three major enzymes, first two enzymes, that is pepsinogen and prorennin, are known as protease type of enzymes. That means they only facilitate in the breakdown of protein type of food, that only the simple protein. You have to remember one thing, these enzymes cannot break down any complex or conjugated protein type of food. They can only make them partially digested, and complex type of protein can be completely digested in our small intestine. The next enzyme, that is gastric lipase, can only break down the most simple type of fat or lipid type of food, that is butter or ghee. Now, this collective form of enzymes that is present to be secreted in the stomach are known as gastric juice. Gastric juice. These gastric juice are secreted by several gastric glands present in the inner lining of our stomach. In an average, 2 to 3 liters of gastric juice can be secreted per day in our stomach, whose pH range is around 1.2 to 1.8. The reason behind such a low pH is the presence of HCl in our gastric juice. Now, if we want to understand the basic chemical reaction that takes place in our stomach, we have to move into these sections. Our first reaction is the activation of the enzyme pepsinogen. This is its proenzyme form. Pepsinogen get activated into pepsin with the help of HCl. And after activation, pepsin will help in the breakdown of different simple protein type of food and make them convert into simpler form, that is protease and peptone. Our next reaction is the activation of prorennin, that also with the help of HCl. After activation, the rennin can break down milk protein and make them convert into simpler form, that is paracasein and whey protein. So rennin act on milk protein. And our last reaction is any fat or lipid type of food can be broken down into fatty acid or glycerol by the presence of gastric lipase. Gastric lipase. So these are the basic chemical reaction that takes place in our stomach. Here you have to remember one thing, no type of carbohydrate food can be digested in our stomach because gastric juice doesn't contain any kind of carbohydrate digesting enzyme. Now we have to discuss our last major important digestive organ about small intestine. In our small intestine, every type of food can be digested. That is simple or complex starch, simple or complex protein, or even any type of fat. All can be digested in our small intestine. And there are several categories of different enzymes. Those are found to be secreted in our small intestine. The first category is carbohydrases. The enzyme those act and can break down different kind of starch type of food. These are pancreatic amylase, maltase, isomaltase, sucrase and lactase. These are all carbohydrate digesting enzyme. Our next category is protein digesting enzyme, that is proteases, and they are trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, procarboxypeptidase. So these are protein digesting enzyme. They can break down any type of protein food in our small intestine. And the last category is lipase. That means the enzyme that break down any type of lipid type of food. That is pancreatic lipase and intestinal lipase. Now here in our small intestine, several juices are found to secreted and act or play their role. The first is bile, secreted from our liver, whose pH range is almost 8.6. The second juice that is found to be secreted in our small intestine is pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice. This is also alkaline in nature. Its pH range is around 8.5. And the last, intestinal juice. Intestinal juice. Its pH range is around 8.3. All these juices are alkaline in nature because they have to neutralize the effect of HCl, the food mixed with HCl and coming from the stomach. That's why small intestine secrete several alkaline juices. Now we have to understand different chemical reaction that takes place in our small intestine. So here are some chemical reaction that takes place in our small intestine. Let's start with starch type of food. Starch or any carbohydrate get digested into maltose, isomaltose and dextrin with the help of the enzyme pancreatic amylase. Remember, pancreatic amylase is a very strong type of carbohydrates. It can digest any kind of simple or complex starch in the small intestine. Next, maltose get breakdown into two molecules of glucose with the help of the enzyme maltase. There are several other kind of carbohydrates present and act in the small intestine. Here are two such examples being given in the board. Next, we will discuss about the breakdown of protein. That means the activity of several proteinases. Prior to break down any protein, the proenzyme trypsinogen get activated into trypsin with the help of enterokinase that is present in the intestinal juice. Now, this active form of trypsin can act on any simple or complex protein and help them to break down into large peptide. Then another proenzyme, procarboxypeptidase, get converted into its active form, carboxypeptidase, with the help of this same enzyme, trypsin. Now, carboxypeptidase then act on several large peptide molecules and help them to break down into smaller peptide and amino acids. So, this is a kind of chemical reaction where the different proteinases act in our small intestine. Now let's move and know about the digestion of fat type of food. During the digestion of fat type of food in small intestine, both the lipase, pancreatic lipase and intestinal lipase act quite similarly. So here, whenever it tries to break down any triglyceride, it get break down into diglyceride and fatty acid. So here the enzyme is lipase, again any lipase, pancreatic lipase or intestinal lipase. Then the diglyceride again get break down into monoglyceride and fatty acid with the help of same type of lipase enzyme. Thus, any type of complex food finally get converted into glucose, amino acid or fatty acid or glycerol in the small intestine. And with the help of blood, they finally reaches to each and every body cell for their final assimilation. Thus, the entire mechanism of digestion get complete in our body. So, I hope you get clear idea about the entire mechanism of digestion in our body. Still, if you have any queries associated with digestion, you can ask me in the comment box below. And if you like the video, then don't forget to subscribe my channel.